So at the beginning of this series we covered something called Laravel Elixir. And Elixir is a wrapper around Gulp which allows you to write your Gulp file, so your Gulp configuration file, in a much simpler way. And Gulp of course allows you to compile your assets, to compile your JavaScripts, uglify them, to compile your SCSS files, do live reloading and so on. So with the new version of Laravel, there comes something called Laravel Mix, which is a continuation of Laravel Elixir, but not exactly, because Laravel Mix is a wrapper around Webpack. And Webpack is a module bundler, which is a fancy way to say that it allows you to include JavaScript files into other JavaScript files, so to import them as modules. Of course, it does something else. It also can compile your SCSS files, your LESS files, it can optimize images, you can use it with Babel and so on. And I think it's faster than Gulp. So as I said, it comes with the newest version of Laravel Elixir, and it provides you a simple API to create your Webpack configuration files, because Webpack is kind of known to be tricky for first-time users to set up. But with Laravel Mix, it's very simple, as you will see in this episode. So Laravel Mix is written by Jeffrey Way, and Jeffrey Way is the creator of Laravel Elixir also, and of Laracasts. So if you go to this GitHub repository, you can go to the documentation, click this link to go to initial documentation and see how to install Laravel Mix on your project. So Laravel Mix comes with Laravel, but it's not created to be used just with Laravel. You can use it on any kind of project you like, just like you would use Laravel Elixir on WordPress, which I did on this channel, and on October CMS and so on. You have to configure it a little bit, but you can use it wherever you want. Also, there is this documentation page on the official Laravel docs site, so you can read through that, and I would suggest that you do. Okay, so let's install a Laravel Mix. So, as it says right here, you should create the directory for your application. We already have that, it's October Movies. Then you should initialize your package.json file. We already got that going. So we should actually just copy this right here and paste it into our console. So as you can see, I'm in October Movies. I will just paste this in, and we will install Laravel Mix. So once this is done installing, you should actually follow this step right here. And it says to copy our node module Laravel Mix setup, so all the files in the setup directory or folder, to the root of your site. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it in. And now if we go to our code editor, you will see that we have two new files right here. So one is called webpack config.js, and you should actually never touch that file. You can configure your Webpack right here. So in webpack.mix.js file. And as you can see, it's very easy. It already is set up to compile your JavaScript files. This is going to allow you to import other JavaScript files into your app.js file. And it's also going to use Babel on it, so you can use ECMAScript 6, and it's going to put it in the dist directory. And also it is going to compile your SAS files and put it in the dist directory. So of course we will have to configure this a little bit for October, but before we do that, let's just follow documentation a little bit more and see this right here. So you have this npm scripts that you can copy out. So I'm just going to copy it and go to my package.json file, and under scripts I'm just going to paste this in. We are doing that because we don't want to use this command right here, so node modules bin webpack. Instead of that, we can just use npm run dev, npm run watch, npm run hot, or npm run production. So you would use dev to compile your assets in the dev environment. You can use watch to have some sort of live reloading with BrowserSync. This is for hot reloading your modules, and when your site is ready for production, you can run npm run production, and it will minify your files and so on, so that it can be used live on the web. Okay, so first of all, let's just go to webpack.mix.js, and we have to set our paths right here. So our JS file is not in src app.js, but it's actually in themes, Olympus, assets, JS, app.js. So if we go to themes, Olympus, assets, JS, we have this app.js file. So I will write that. And I'm just going to leave it to go to the dist directory. Okay, so we do the same thing for our CSS files. But instead of asset.js, it's going to be assets CSS, because we have our CSS files right here. So Olympus assets CSS, and our main CSS file is called style.scss. Okay, so we got that figured out. Now let's just go to our command line and let's run npm run dev and see what happens. So as you can see, it compiled successfully in 4,973 milliseconds, or around 5 seconds. So if we go to our code editor right now, you will see some strange thing. As you will see, in Olympus assets we don't have any dist folder, but we got this public folder, and in that public folder we have this dist directory, and then we have app.js and style.css. So this is not good for us. This will not work for us. So we have to configure Laravel Mix to know where our assets folder is, because this is the default directory for your Laravel project. So if you're using Laravel, this will be very good for you, but if you're using October, it's not going to be that great. So you have to define your public path. And to do that, you would just do mix, set public path, and then define the path to your assets folder, which we are using to call our CSS and JS files. Okay, and now I'm just going to set this to go to the JavaScript folder, so dist.js, and this one to go to the CSS folder. So it's going to be dist CSS. I'm not going to set it to compiled folder as we have now with Elixir, just so that we can see the differences. So I will save this, and we can go to our command line and run npm run dev again. Okay, and now as you can see, in our assets folder we have this dist, and we have CSS, so we have style CSS, and we have app.js. For now, we don't have anything in our app.js files except for this Webpack bootstrap, which is going to be at the beginning of every Webpack compiled JS file. So now we are going to go to our layouts folder, default.htm, and just change the paths. So instead of linking to assets compiled CSS style.css, we are going to link to assets dist css style.css, and I'm going to link to assets dist js app.js file. Also, one more thing, I'm going to create another script call to our jQuery file so that the actual October's JS framework will work as expected. And our jQuery file is in our JS folder, so without the dist. You can of course import it via Webpack, but we are not going to do that right now. I prefer it to have this way, so this vendor file is going to be called separately. We can save this, and now our October CMS site should actually work as expected. As you can see, nothing has changed. If we check out page source, we are calling this Olympus assets dist CSS file. And just to be sure that this is working, let's just go to our code editor. We will go to SES folder, go to globals, and I have this background of white for the body, and I'm just going to change it to be black. And then we go to our console and run npm run dev. And now if I refresh this page, we get the black background on our site. So it appears that the CSS compilation is actually working. So of course, we don't want to run npm run dev every time we want to compile our assets. It would be great if that would happen automatically every time we save our files, and also for this to refresh the page. So what we are going to do, we are going to go to our web.mix.js file, and first of all let me just show you. So I'm using Vagrant. You can check out the videos on this channel to see how to set up your Vagrant local development environment, and I'm using this domain, quote unquote, right here, so octobermovies.dev. This is the information that you are going to be needing for setting up BrowserSync. So if I go right here, and you can also read up upon BrowserSync if you have some different configuration. On their documentation page, you will see that it is very easy to set up BrowserSync for localhost or whatever else you're using. So I'm just going to do mix BrowserSync. And then I'm going to set up my proxy. And it's going to be octobermovies.dev. Same thing for my host. And I'm going to set a notify, so that those notify messages that BrowserSync provides to false, because they get on my nerves. And we are just going to define the files that BrowserSync should look at, and when those files are changed, it will automatically refresh our page. And I'm just going to copy this. And it's actually going to be themes Olympus assets dist CSS, and every CSS file that is in that folder. Next thing, we want to watch for HTML files in our theme. So themes Olympus, and then any folder, and every HTML file. Okay, and we also want to watch for our JavaScript files. So it's going to be themes Olympus assets dist JS and all JS files. And actually I see that I made a mistake right here, so it's not going to be SCSS because it's going to be CSS, because these are the compiled files, not SCSS files. So if I save this, this should be configured now to run with BrowserSync. So if I go to my console, I will not run npm run dev right now. I'm going to run npm run watch. And now, as you can see, it automatically opens up a new tab in my browser, and it's connected to the localhost 3002. So this is the port that BrowserSync uses to watch for those files, to reload your page and so on. So let's just see if this works. If I go to globals.scss again and change the color to white instead of black of the body, save it. As you can see, this is very fast. When you run npm run dev, it adds some additional steps, and it's not that fast. As you can see, it took around 5 seconds to compile everything. But when you do it this way with watch, it runs very fast. So you can change that color, you can change the color of the font to be red, and now all the fonts are red, and so on. And the same thing will happen with your JavaScript files, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. Okay, so let's go to our app.js file and let's create a function called say hi. And it's going to take a parameter of name, and I'm just going to alert that to say hello name. Okay, and now I'm just going to call that function and tell it to say hi John. So hello John. Okay, so now if I save this, go to my page, as you can see it builds up, and now we get this alert, hello John. Okay, that is great. So every time we refresh the page, it's going to say hello John. Okay, now let's do it the Webpack way. So let's put this function into a new file. So I'm just going to copy this and create a new file, and it's going to be called sayhi.js. Paste it in, and instead of this function say hi name, I'm actually going to use this code right here. So it's going to be export default function name, because most of the time if you're building modular JS, you're gonna want to have just one function for each file. But of course you can check out the Webpack documentation, and you can have many functions in one file and export them. I will show you actually that also, but I'm just going to save this because this is not a tutorial about Webpack and exporting and importing your JavaScript modules. And now, of course, if I remove this and refresh this page, nothing happens, and also we should get an error. So the unquote reference error say hi is not defined. So we want to import that file. As I said at the beginning, module bundling is just a fancy way of saying that you can import files from one JavaScript file to another. So to import that file, you would just do import say hi from, and then the name of the file. Since I have that file in the same folder as this app.js, I'm just going to use this / notation. So say hi. And that should actually be it. If I save it right now and refresh the page, we get the alert again. And if we check out the file, so if we go to dist.js app.js, you can see this bootstrap, and at the end of the file we should have this right here. So as you can see, we have this function defined right here, and then we are calling it, and it's giving us that alert that we have on the page. Of course, if you want to have more functions in one file, you can do something like export function say hi, and it's going to be name, and let's create another function, and we're going to call it say bye. Save this, go to our app.js file. As you can see, we get an error because we are not exporting a default function, so you get error, users and so on. And to import it, you just do this. So say hi, and we can import say bye. And we can use it right here. Say bye Sally. And also I'm just going to rename this. As you can see, we get hello John, and then we get hello Sally, but we actually want this function say bye to say bye Sally, not hello Sally. Okay, now the page refreshes, we get hello John, and we got bye Sally. Okay, so that is the way that you would import multiple functions. But as I said, this is not a Webpack tutorial. I just want to show you one more thing. I'm going to actually comment these out. So you can automatically, with just this setup right here, use Babel also. So Babel is going to transpile your JavaScript ECMAScript 6 files to the JavaScript files that most browsers can read. And also you get the full API right here in the comments, so you can play with those if you want. I'm not, of course, going to show you everything. So I'm just going to go to my app.js file and create a class which you can't use in current vanilla JavaScript in most browsers. So I'm just going to say hello world, create a class, and we set the constructor to say alert hello world. Okay, and then we new it up. So this is ECMAScript 6 code, which some older browsers would actually not read. So I'm going to save this, and if we go to our page, we get hello world. But if I go to dist.js app.js file and we check out the code that is being rendered, as you can see, we don't have that class anymore, but we have this var hello world. It creates a function of hello world, and then it calls a class check, and then alerts hello world, and then it news it up. So this is the code that most browsers would be able to read. So this has been just a part of the functionality you can do with the Laravel Mix. Of course, if you want to know more, check out the documentation on the official Laravel docs page. You can also check out this Git repository, and you can check this Webpack mix.js file to see what else you can do. So as you can see, you can use React with this, you can use Vue with this, you can compile your less files, minify them, set up source maps, and so on. So check out the documentation for that. I didn't expect this video to be so long, but if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you like this channel, maybe subscribe to it. If you want to ask me questions, you can do that on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, GitHub, wherever. Also, everything we did here will be available for you on GitHub. The link will be in the description below. And for this episode, if you download it and just run npm install, you should get this working automatically. And that's about it. Also, yeah, if you want to send some money my way, you can use the Patreon page for that. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.